So around this time last year, I got into the Forbes 30 Under 30 Finance and Venture Capital list in Asia. Yay! I'm so happy that this year, two of my friends who are both really ambitious women also got into the list. It's so great seeing more ambitious ladies getting recognized. For my application, there's a little bit more to the story. I actually didn't get in the first time that I tried for it. Not even the second time. So I'm here to share a little bit more about the process, at least what I went through, and share some of my thoughts about the list in general. Maybe you'll hear some spicy takes. It'll hopefully inspire and inform anyone out there who might be interested in giving the list a shot. Starting way back, I honestly do not remember the very first time I heard about Forbes 30 Under 30. It was probably when I was still living in San Francisco. What I do remember is seeing the list early in my career and not recognizing anyone. And then the year after that, I did start to recognize folks. And the year after that, I started to see friends getting on the list, and that was pretty cool. Now, before I made Forbes 30 Under 30, I had many conflicting feelings about it. Every year, I'd feel this weird mix of excitement and envy. I started to see my friends on the list, and I was very, very happy for them. But I also wanted to see myself on the list. But I also didn't want to admit it. Not to myself and not to others, for three reasons. One, I was maybe protecting myself. If I didn't make the list, I didn't want to be super disappointed. Second, while there are many awesome people on that list, athletes, celebrities, founders, philanthropists, there were also a lot of people with questionable ethics. It was so great being on the same list as global fraudsters. And lastly, it felt rather vain. Because let's be honest, what are the true benefits of being on the list? It's PR. It's a self-marketing engine. And you know what? Maybe that's okay. As a woman in tech, as a female founder, as someone in very male-dominated spaces, I will take the padded credibility to get a seat on the table. At some point, I said, screw it. I'm gonna lean into this vulnerability, to this vanity, and give it a real shot. Because while I can look at it as a big PR scheme, I can also look at it as a way to get exposure to a wider audience and hopefully inspire other women in tech, especially those from my home in the Philippines. And that reframing helped a lot. So here's what I learned when researching and strategizing about the process. Number one, I leaned into my unique founder story. The list really loves founders. That's why I also only really started taking my nomination for the list seriously towards the end of my eligibility, which is around 28, 29 years old, because that was also when I had started my founder journey. Second, they love media. Ultimately, what is Forbes? They are a media company. So if I had a really huge following, or if I had other press about me, that signaled to Forbes that this person was going to bring eyeballs to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. And so showing off a lot of the media, the press, the articles, the audience size is really helpful for the application. Third, numbers matter. The way that I formatted the application that was successful, for example, really highlighted the numbers up front in bullet points. People talk about their revenue, the number of users that they have, the amount of funding that they have. Anything that is real, first off, do not give fake numbers. Maybe pick and choose the right numbers, but make sure you can back them up. Put those numbers front and center to really make the application stand out. And lastly, it's important to have strong nominations, meaning it's important who nominates you, and I think it's important how many nominate you. On the who side, I heard about someone getting nominated by Mark Zuckerberg. So yes, someone who is a celebrity or who is famous or who is very, very, very credible in your field really boosts the nomination. But it also matters if the person who nominates you is a past Forbes 30 Under 30 awardee, and the number of people. I don't have hard evidence on this. They also tell you that the number of nominees doesn't really matter, but I'm also just thinking about like the human process of this, right? I'm imagining them receiving tons and tons of applications, and if one person gets multiple, then you're also just like, wow, But you'll see later my story how the number of people who nominated me eventually did matter. Now, for my strategy, I didn't have a famous person nominating me, and I wasn't at a big corporation like LinkedIn anymore. So I leaned on my friends who were alums. I made the process super easy for them. I created a Notion doc. I gave them bullet points, and I am very, very grateful for their testimonials. And yes, I even nominated myself. So let's talk about my first real try for the nomination. This was around the end of 2022. So the nomination deadline was September 2022 for the 2023 awards. I had one person who was a previous alum nominating me. We had just raised our venture capital funding, so I put that in the application, and the person nominating me was also very instrumental in that process. But to be honest, there wasn't really much else going for me in terms of impact. Because you're just starting out, the rest of the user numbers, the volume numbers felt very weak. Sure enough, the results came around and I didn't get it. Luckily for me, my mindset the entire time was there's always next year, which is the last year I could get it. So my second try was at the end of 2023 for the 2024 list. The deadline was September of 2023. So this was the last year I could apply because your girl was turning 30. So I said, okay, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna do all that we can. And this is when I really started to do all of that research, looking at YouTube videos, looking at articles that I could find online, which honestly there aren't much. But I also talked to past awardees and got their insights. So I drafted up a Notion doc and came up with a strategy and plan. Instead of one nomination, I got 3 people to nominate me. Again, I tried to make it as easy as possible for them. I created separate docs, made it super easy for them to answer the questions, all of that. The nice thing going for me at this point was that we also had a more solid product and more traction, users, and volume that I could feel proud of. They were all submitted by September of 2023. And guess what? I didn't get it. I mean, I'll admit, I was defeated because it was my last chance and I still didn't get it. But it wasn't my last chance because I realized that the Asia list had a later deadline. If you really look at my application, I may be living in North America, but I am an Asian girly through and through. I was born and raised in the Philippines. A lot of our users at the time were also based in the Philippines. A lot of the impact and my story was surrounded around my identity as a Filipino. And the nice thing is, between September and December, a lot more things were going for me. That was when we publicly launched our company, meaning I had a lot of media and press articles about myself and the company. All over TechCrunch, Business Insider, Filipino news outlets. And because of that, we also saw huge spikes of growth, which made the numbers overall just so much stronger. On top of that, instead of getting 3 nominations, I got 5. And yes, one of those was a self-nomination, because if I'm going for it, I'm going for it. And spoiler alert, it finally worked. Not gonna lie, every rejection stung a little bit. But if you know me, you know I'm really gritty. That didn't stop me from iterating on my strategy, vulnerably asking for help, continuing to fight the fight, and even sucking up my pride and submitting a self-nomination. So if I can do it, you can do it too. I believe in you. So what does the process look like? There are 2 major parts. There's the initial nomination form, and then there's the semifinals application. Let's take a look. So the initial nomination form is pretty straightforward. It talks about basic details like your first name, last name, date of birth, where you went to school, email, etc. The most important part of this application is the question around why this person is a best fit for the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Spend a lot of time on this one and make sure it's formatted in a very easy to read way, because ultimately humans are the ones going through this. Though arguably maybe they're using LLMs at this point. I also think that the relevant links are important. You want to put in any PR, media, personal website, social media channels if you have a big following, your business website, and they'll probably click through all of those. So make sure your online profiles, your LinkedIn, your social media accounts are well kept. I, for example, put in my website, mikareyes.com. Check it out. And what's gonna happen is, I wanna say about a month or so, you will get an email from an editor of the list. That email told me that I made the semifinals for the Forbes 30 Under 30 award. And so they ask for more information. They ask for references. So I gave one of our VCs and one of my teammates or employees. If we're a founder or co-founder, we had to give our company or NGO's registration number, where it was incorporated, and the year of incorporation. This is to make sure that we are not fraudsters lying about our companies. I had to send the names and emails of any co-founders that were under 30. I had to send a photo of myself, and that's what you see on the website today. I already had some nice photos from my PR photo shoot, so this was easy. And then I also had to send a copy of my personal documentation. This was to make sure I was actually within the age criteria. The most important thing was also filling out the short questionnaire. So we were linked to a Google form that asked us a bunch of questions. So the first page was fine. Basics, name, residence, except maybe for marital status and number of children, because I was like, why do you need to know that? Then the next few pages got interesting. Some categories: education and family. They asked about my education and my degrees, sure. And they asked, what best describes your family? Working, middle, or wealthy? They asked if my family was supportive of my decision to start my own business or my career choices. Has my family been involved in setting up, running, or funding my business? Are they trying to filter for Nepo babies? Then there was a fun category. Some interesting questions here. I'll pick up my favorites. Who's your favorite superhero? I said Elastigirl. What is your biggest myth about millennials? A weird one. Do you consider being under 30 an advantage in your career? Hell yes, but a weird one. How do you define success? And how many hours per week do you work? Why does that matter? Next category is about my company. It asks some basic questions about when I started my company, total funding, my investors, funding sources, all of that. It also asks about what my ideal trait in an employee is, which company I most admire and want to emulate, and how COVID has affected my company. I'm calling out these questions mostly because I'm curious about how they're using it to judge our applications. And lastly, it asks for my short bio, which is probably what they use to iterate on the bios that you see on the website. I submitted this finals application and didn't hear back. While I gave my references were actually never called. Hoping around February, March. Today is February 27. February 29 is the actual deadline. So I had a week to actually finish the questionnaire and the other information that they requested. Easy. And then the results will come in around May as the estimate. So fingers crossed, I'm gonna send this email and we should be good to go. And just to share, here's a little bit of a sneak peek of my actual applications and some of my answers. This is what I shared in my self-nomination. What happened the day that I found out? I was in Vancouver. I had just finished an F45 exercise class with my sister, and we were heading to dinner. I pull out my phone and check my email and see the subject line, welcome to the Forbes 30 Under 30 class of 2024. And I was like, hell yeah. I show it to my sister and we're just super excited. We celebrated with a nice dinner with my sister, my brother, and my partner. What happens after you get on the list? Spoiler alert, your life doesn't really change. The most fun part does happen about a week after the award. First off, I got a lot of love and exposure from a lot of my friends and family. And that was really, really nice to see. I also had a bunch of people from news outlets reaching out. In the Philippines, only a handful of people really make the list every year. The 6 of us got published in all these news outlets celebrating the people who made the list. And so I got a lot of exposure in multiple media outlets. And I just so happened to be flying back to the Philippines for a cousin's wedding the week after the awards were sent out. Some news outlets reached out to me to schedule live TV interviews, which was pretty cool. It was a really nice week and week after following. But after the hype dies down, everything everything just goes back to normal. I'm sure it helps with my resume and my LinkedIn and my SEO, but to set expectations to the founders out there, it didn't necessarily help grow my company significantly. And there isn't really strong programming and benefits from Forbes after. I did just recently get added to a WhatsApp group with other Forbes under 30 awardees, and it's fairly active. I do hope that the exposure and the broader reach of my story could help. Part of the reason why I post content or write blog posts is to hopefully impact at least one person's life. Overall, I feel really grateful to be a part of the Forbes 30 under 30 list. I gave it my all in my last few moments. I'm happy to be able to tell the tale and hopefully help someone else out there. But just know that being on the list or not being on the list should not detract from the great work that you are already doing. The list is just sugar and confetti on top. And even then, the view from over here is just okay. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below for any questions. Don't stop doing the great work that you're doing, and I will see you in the next video. If you like games, which I obviously do, you'll notice that there was an item from last video in my background that is no longer there, and an item in this video that is now here. So check it out, comment below if you see it, and maybe in the next video, I'll do the same thing.